Hello. Good evening, everyone. We are here with today's first episode of CCS Masterclass with the topic Creating Team Dynamic and Culture. I have here with me today the owner of Wildheart Esports, the team that was the runner-up for Season 1, Heroes Heart CCL, presented by Roll20. Goon, hi, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. By the way, what's your name?
Oh, oh man.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Excited. Just excited to just hang out and chat, talk, and answer questions. Talk to everybody.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. Again, like I said before, this is the first episode of this hopefully ongoing series. So is there anything you wanted to introduce yourself with, or just let us know a little bit about Wildheart Esports before we get into the topic?
Yeah. So I guess brief history. I feel weird talking about this stuff, but I mean, I've been playing HOTS for a long time, alpha, beta, all that. Got into a little bit of competitive early on in the beta. Just was always just sweating, playing the game, trying to find ways to get better, watching YouTube videos, whatever the case would be, whatever was out there at the time. Ended up somehow got into like casting and then coaching, as well as casting chair league. I did chair league for a bit, and then I did a little bit of NGS before I started doing some other community type casting for other small communities and their specific brands or whatever. It was Wild West back in those days. Did that. Ended up coaching as well. I wouldn't say. I guess my first official coaching position was with Reborn. They were an HGC Open Division team that Unaverted actually was on. Did that for that split, and then No Tomorrow made a post saying they were looking for a coach. I applied, had my tryout with them, did an interview with them, tryout and all that. They were just like, okay, cool, you flamed us. It was good. Come on in. And I was like, all right. Did that with No Tomorrow until the end of the season, and then HGC died. And then I took a little hiatus from HOTS for a bit, and eventually kind of just came back, said, you know what, I'm done being salty. I'm just going to play the game, enjoy the game for what it is, play with my friends. And then CCL was announced, and I had just so happened, I had created Wildheart. It was an idea that I had. I had the idea of Wildheart like back in 2018 during the HGC days. I remember sitting in scrims in my notebook, writing, drawing sketches of what a logo might look like and things like that. And finally, it wasn't until like 2019. I'm sorry, 2020, early 2020. I was like, I'm just gonna make a Twitter account. I'm just gonna make something for fun and just see what happens. All these orgs are doing it wrong. I'm just gonna do it myself. And then I had just created an LLC for no reason at all, other than my buddy was like, hey, if this is really what you want to be doing, make an LLC, see what happens. And I was like, okay. And then CCL appeared and they're like, hey, you got to be an LLC. And I was like, oh, hey, I have one of those. I have one of those. Applied, and they had been lurking my stuff for a long time. I had met some of them in person at BlizzCon and had conversations with them on their shows as well in the past. From when I was doing Troll and HGC and the Nexus Trolls podcast. And yeah, somehow here we are today after all that mess. I don't know. Life is wild. It's interesting. Before we went live, I was just saying, like, I was telling Brainer, I was like, hey, life is, it's all about winging it. You know, just wing it until you get there.
Yeah, until all the pieces kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
And just going off of that, you know, everyone who has seen you on CCL has worked with you, has talked with you, you know, the HOTS After Dark. We all know that you have this really, really unique attitude towards life, and your whole philosophy in general is very how do you say, just like on, winging it, just like how you just said it. So diving into that, how did you take that attitude, like creating your team and your team's dynamic, your team's culture, and really let us know how you went into that?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, the way I saw this initially, the way CCL was pitched to me, so to speak, was, hey, this is part-time, this is casual fun. We want to bring back competitive HOTS, and we want it to grow over time. It's not going to come right out the gate, just boom, this is it. This is the epitome of hot. That's not what it was. It was like, let's bring it back. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. I want this to be fun and engaging. I want to have a good time. With that being said, like, I'm not going to expect my players, players that I draft, to be scrimming 5 days a week, 7 days a week for 4 hours, 6-hour blocks or whatever. None of that stuff. It's just like, look, my vision for Wildheart, I want to encourage other people to go out, follow their dreams, follow their passions, chase whatever they brings fulfillment to their lives. For these players, it was the same thing. You guys enjoy HOTS. You guys want to play. You guys want to stream. You guys just want to compete. You guys just want to be in a good stack together. Let's do that. Let's come together and just have a good time playing the game. At the end of the day, that's what it was. Let's have a good time playing the game. We want to win, but we're not going to lose any sleep over it if we don't. You know what I mean? And there were some objectives that I had in there. I want to make sure I brought in some experience, some knowledge and some new faces. That way they can learn from the old guard, so to speak. And when the old guard leaves, the new blood kind of takes over and passes that on to future generations of Wildheart, Heroes of Storm players, competitors, or even just HOTS in general. But yeah. I can get into you. Do you want me to get into all that? Or yeah, keep going.
So piggybacking off of that. What were like the must-have traits for the players? Like, how a lot of people had a lot of controversy over your funds pick. But what was something that he showed, or something that all of your players has, that it factor that you were like, these are the guys that are gonna make up Wildheart?
Yeah. So I guess I'll just go into my whole thing here.
Yeah.
There's 3 things that I was looking at. There's three things when I'm creating a team or a culture, an environment, a dynamic. Establish a vision for what you want this to look like, what you want to pursue, where you want to be, what the end goal is. Everybody on the team is considered a leader in some capacity. Okay, yeah, you have a shot caller, maybe you have a drafter, maybe there is someone that naturally everyone is going to gravitate to because of their personality. Okay, cool, but you have that. However, everybody else can lead in their own way. And I'll get into that. And then, so establish a vision, everyone is a leader, and then encourage relationships with each other. Something that I saw that was very troubling for No Tomorrow back in those days was 5 players kind of brought together because they just needed to survive in this league and not get relegated. There were some relationships there. There definitely were, but it wasn't a uniform kind of thing. And I wanted to avoid that with Wildheart, but I guess I'll get into what I mean when I say establish a vision. Yeah, what's the goal? How are you going to get there? And what are some things that are going to detract from that goal and from that vision? When I had the conversation with the players with Wildheart, I reached out. I talked to many different players. I talked to guys like Fury and I talked to a lot of people, and I kind of told them what my vision was for Wildheart. I want this to be an esports organization that transcends more than just HOTS, more than just esports, but also going into real life, outdoor recreation, adventure programs, things like that. And then once we are feeling fulfilled, once we feel this sense of pride in what it is that we're doing and achieving our goal, ensuring that we're bringing other people with us so they can do the same thing. When I was telling my players that, or telling the people I was interviewing, I took note of who kind of reciprocated that vibe back to me by expressing their passions and their dreams, their concerns, their fears, whatever the case may be. I wasn't looking for the guy that was like, well, I was number one, I did this. These are all my accolades here. It's like, okay, cool. I'm talking to you because I think you're good. I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for a more human connection in that regard. So, I was like, hey, I want to get there. I want to bring new guys on. You guys have to be on board with having fresher faces on. If that's something that you want to be a part of, cool. If not, fine. I'll go to somebody else. No big deal. And we did that. I went every single player I talked to. That's what I told them. The 6 players you see on Wildheart were probably 6 of the many people that told me exactly what they felt, how they thought, and what life was to them, their dreams and their visions, and etc. So I had that there. They bought in, and it was great. And then I for everyone as a leader, I also wanted to make sure that everyone understood that to lead is to serve. Too many people in life get caught up in like what a leader is or manager, whatever. They think it's just someone dictating or delegating all these responsibilities to other people, and that's it. Get me the result, and that's that. I come from I grew up in a military family. My father was in the military for 30 years, and that was something that he told me, despite him being a very high-ranking official person, he was just like, you have to serve those beneath you because those are the ones that are going to be taking over for you when you're gone. And kind of instilling that mindset, that attitude to my players, and just kind of pulling that out of them and seeing, getting them to say like, just seeing that that's how they thought or that's what they felt was very important, because the legacy that I want to have for Wildheart, like I mentioned before, is, we have the guys at the top, they pass that knowledge on, it keeps going down, people keep coming up, and that's the system. But yeah, to serve. So for me, I want to make sure that I'm serving the players. I'm serving the people that on my team, everyone, the streamers, the social media, everybody, the staff, everybody. How can I help you realize your dream? What can I do? How can I encourage you or whatever? I don't have a whole lot to give, but what I can give, I will. And I guess, instilling that culture, that mindset, and then seeing other people go out on their own and do that to everybody else. That's like the Wildheart way. That's what I would say is the Wildheart way. You serve others, naturally they're going to respect is earned, not given, it's earned. And sorry, I'm like getting a little emotional here because I'm just thinking about, how in my life, I've had leaders or people in leadership positions, I'll just say that, that abuse that. And nobody respects that person. They don't respect anybody else around them. And then you just get the bare minimum, and if that at all, and everything looks like trash, and it's a failure. But if you serve, if you're willing to go out of your way to serve others, you'll get a better result. People naturally will, buy in and do more than just the bare minimum and go above and beyond what you could have ever imagined. And that's what it takes. Everybody on the team has something like that. Justin comes in with his crazy drafts, his crazy whatever. Zergling is very cool, calm, and collected. It's like, cool. Hey, we're having a good time, but I need you guys to like chill out. I need to grab the soak before we look for a fight. And people are like, oh yeah. Absolutely. You're correct. We have to do this. You're right. And then
voice of reason.
And then Funds, being like the younger player that he is, this is what I loved about Funds. When we listened to his exhibition match, comms despite him getting farmed for an hour, he was pretty positive, and he's like, what do we do next? What do you guys need me to do? Are we looking for this? Da 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 da. He stayed in the game, and kind of try to keep that atmosphere. He led in that regard. He was a leader there when everybody else was just quiet, didn't want to say anything, or was tilted. He put in the effort to try to keep the game going, and that's so valuable. It's so overlooked, I think, in competitive spaces. You take an attitude like that with a general skill level, and you can develop somebody to be really, really good. But yeah, Weary Day helped out with draft stuff too. He'll come in, he'll flame. He has his little spice that that everybody needs. Buds is really like chill, low key. He leads and everybody comes in. If some people are tense or whatever, he'll like say something funny. People crack up. Everyone has their own little thing that they bring into the team dynamic. They all lead in their own way. They all have that vision, and with that vision in mind, with that goal in mind, they can cultivate success. But yeah. Let me see what else here.
To jump on that a little bit, if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
When you're talking about each of their individual characteristics and how they got along with each other and kind of all these different pieces that are filling the same puzzle, was there anything that they did outside of the game of Heroes of the Storm to bond with one another, or to just hang out or talk with one another? Do you mind if you dive into that a little bit?
They have their own memes. They all have their own sense of as a team have developed their team's sense of humor. They do play other games together, whether it's golfing with friends or like Jack Party Box or whatever it's called. They do that. They play Eternal. They were playing Eternal Return Herbs. They were playing that before everybody else like hopped on, and they left it because it was cool. We got bored of it and we went to go back, and and then everybody's going back, so they're like, okay, I guess we'll go back. They were playing it before it was cool. I'm just saying that. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. They play other things. They talk to each other outside the game. They meme. They're in chats. They're just normal guys, normal people just hanging out. They enjoy each other's company. They're going to want to be in it. And I think that's another value that's underserved. I get it. You're not going to like everybody that you work with. Cool, I get that. But I think having some kind of relationship with somebody, just being able to talk to them about the game at least without flaming each other is super important. Which I guess brings me to my next point here, unless you had something else you wanted to ask.
No, you can continue.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that I encouraged relationships with each other. Hey, ask the questions, funds, weirdly, whatever. Ask the questions, get involved with the process. Ask for feedback, and not only them, but also like Zergling. Oh man, Zergling was so good at this. It was just like Zergling had he has a lot of knowledge and experience being, a top player, but he worked his way through Open Division to get into HGC before it died. RIP. So like he had a lot of experience in that amateur scene, in that grind, in understanding what goes on inside of amateur teams and amateur leagues and et cetera, et cetera. So he was a really good, he was great at bridging the gap between, funds and, funds is like, oh my God, Justin is amazing formation, and it's just like, dude, no, just like we're teammates. We're all here. We all have the same goal and the same vision here. Don't worry about that. Just let's just talk. Let's do that. And Weary Day and Unaverted, they had a relationship before being on the team together. They've played with each other on different teams in NGS or Heroes Lounge, all that stuff. Obviously, Buds and Justin, the dynamic duo. They have relationships, and Zergling's just a nice guy. He can make a relationship. He can have relationships with everybody, and it's cool and it's fantastic. But I would say encouraging. You know, I'm going to go ahead and say I got really lucky with a lot of their personality traits and like everything that they brought, and made this really easy. But I will say that it confirmed for me and like just solidified my belief in these things that I've mentioned: the vision, leadership, and relationships. And I think that you can do that. You can do this with almost any team. If you're taking it all into consideration. When encouraging relationships, you know, it's really important that you open yourself up to your teammates, to the people on your team. I know, I know that opening yourself up and revealing things about yourself is scary to people. I mean, we don't even have to talk about teaming. We can talk about relationships in general with, like, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever. When you're dating somebody, a big part of dating is getting to know somebody. Well, how do you get to know them? Well, how do you allow someone to get to know you? Well, you got to have to like really peel back those layers and reveal those things about yourself that you like or that you don't like, or whatever the case may be. And, you know, people can take that and hurt you. And that sucks and it's painful. Or they can be like, oh, that's really awesome, and I will do the same for you. And that level, that relationship grows in a way that even if you have been hurt by somebody else in the past because they've used the things that you revealed to them against you or whatever the case may be, that moment where you finally do find a good or have a good relationship with somebody, that bad stuff doesn't even matter anymore. You want to have those relationships with everybody. You want to get to know people more and whatnot. But yeah, discussing things that matter to you, sharing stories, your experiences, good and bad, you know, your opinions. I think that's okay. There's a lot of opinions these days and people don't want to talk about it. Okay, I get it. But I think in a team environment, a more intimate environment, it's important. Staying humble, being humble, you know, being humble, yeah, telling your story and revealing things about yourself requires a certain level of humility. You have to just lay it all out. And also, someone may not have the same experience as you, may not have the same knowledge or whatever the case may be, and respecting that, and not being like, oh, I was an HTC player. Okay, shut up, NGS player. You know, or like what? Remove that stuff. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Being vulnerable, you got to have that. But yeah, respect the different experiences and be open to new perspectives. One of the things I had talked about once I like kind of locked in Justin for the draft before the draft even happened. He was like, we'll work together. I had to make sure that everybody else I was talking to was okay with potentially drafting the way, you know, the crazy stuff that Justin's known to draft. And everybody's like, yeah, I'm open to it. You know, sure, I'll give it a shot. And even then, like sometimes, you know, even Justin got a little too crazy sometimes, and his teammates would be like, hey, what if we just drafted Johanna here? You know? Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, okay, all right, for sure. Yeah, you know, good point. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything you explain and describe, it goes straight into like a regular sports team, you know, a volleyball team, a basketball team. Like you can draft the best players that you can possibly draft. And if they just don't vibe with one another, it's not going to work out. And typically you'll have people, some of the best teams just being friends. One thing, a little bit of a fun question I wanted to ask. So Wildheart shouted out Funds' mom every single chance they got. And I was so curious about it. Was she a huge support of the team? What's the story behind that?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Funds, he just turned 18 last month. He turned 18 for the finals.
So he was that young.
He's 17. So when I was thinking about drafting him and talking to he told me his dream was to be in esports. He wanted to be a competitor in esports, whatever that was. And a lot of the personality traits that he had, I like, but also, you know, his vision, his dream for himself. And I was like, yeah, you know, I get that. Me too, man. Anyways, I was like, I want to get him. I want to draft him. He's got to sign a contract, or somebody's got to sign a contract, and it can't be him because he's not 18. you know what? I have to, funds. I got to talk to your parents. All right. Yeah. We can hang out with my mom and talk to her. And I was like, all right, cool. So not only did I have to establish a relationship with funds, I had to establish a relationship with his mom. She was allowing some hairy dude on the internet, to be like, esports, man, to work with her son and, make sure that I wasn't taking advantage of him or her in any way. So I told her everything. I told her everything about me, my life, everything. And she was like, awesome. That's cool. I never thought I'd see the day where my son could potentially get paid to play video games. Which is like a really big, that's a big moment for me. And something that I wanted, I want that to share that moment or create those moments for other parents as well and their kids in the future. But she was like, yeah, hey, I trust you. Thank you so much. And for this opportunity. And we hope that, we can continue working together and things like that. And for me, it was just like, when we had the player in, he was like, hey guys, I appreciate her willingness to trust and to work with me and allow her son to do this. And so we got to thank Funds' mom. She made this happen. She was a part of that. And Funds hates the meme, but we don't care.
I mean, does he? Just a quick tidbit, because today they had the 30K and Chili Mountain teams going against each other. One of them was Fun's mom says we can win.
Yeah. Fun's mom let us play or something like that.
So yeah. I mean, let the meme live if it brings attention to you like that.
He's a good sport about it. He'll let it happen, whatever. But he's just like, I'm just ready for it to go away.
She has no idea how famous she is. It's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. So before I get into questions, was there anything else you wanted to kind of lay on out there?
I talk about my experience. I keep thinking back on my experience so far, and where Wildheart is today, and it's just it blows my mind. I'm not even gonna lie. Initially, it's like, okay, I heard about CCL and things like that. There's a lot of internal conflict and struggle within me. I was like, HOTS is dead, and I'll just join and be a meme and whatever. And then I don't know. This was an opportunity for me to follow my dream, and I didn't want to I almost threw it away because I was salty about something else that happened in the past. And I don't know, somebody's out there listening. If you're holding on to something that's keeping you from pursuing something you want to go, it may not be the way you imagined it would look. I would encourage you to let whatever that is go and move forward, press. And it may not, be what you were expecting, but I guarantee you that if you stay the course, it'll end up being something better than you would have imagined. But
Preach.
I don't know.
Preach.
I don't know what it had to do with team dynamic or anything like that.
That's just something everyone needs to know. It needs to be told at some point in their lives.
No.
Okay. So on that big note, we're going to go ahead and dive into questions here. So I have a couple here that we shared together off the bat. So this is from Key 1108. We went over this a little bit, but if there's anything else you wanted to add here. At the beginning stage of planning/assembling a team, not just HOTS, but I suppose an esports team in general, what's your biggest thing or the first few things you look at in terms of building a roster?
Right. I talked about establishing a vision, leader. Everyone's a leader, encourage relationships. That stuff is good in creating the team dynamic. When it comes to this, when I'm looking at players for the first time or talking to them or whatever, for me, it's how willing are they? What's their willingness to share their life experiences with you? Are they, how shy are they? How outspoken? What are the things that they focus on in the conversation? Is it always about them? Is it their thing, their or other experiences? How quickly? And this is just me. This is my Goon way. How quickly does the conversation derail and we start talking about other things that don't even matter, but at the end of the day, we still feel like the conversation that we had, the meeting that we had, or whatever was like valuable. We didn't talk anything about HOTS in one interview, or maybe like for like 5 minutes, and then we went on talking about all kinds of different things, from politics to spirituality to our favorite places to eat or whatever, and it was great. And we didn't agree on everything, but it was still an awesome just time. And yeah, I look at those things as like, this is somebody that like I can have a relationship with and work with, and they're willing to work towards the goal and towards the vision. But yeah, that's one thing I look at. I think humans have a pretty good BS detector for the most part. Just seeing, if there's some BS, and all right, that's I'm looking to see if they're gonna BS me about something. I will say I do set up. I don't want to say I set them up as like a negative way, but I do kind of set the stage in a way where I open up the conversation. I tell them everything about myself. I kind of open those little doors a little bit for them, kind of expose myself a little bit so that they can feel comfortable doing the same. I'm not going to just be like, tell me everything and that's it. Like I have to lead in the sense and be like, hey, this is me. Here I am, take it. This, if you want to engage in this conversation, if you want to engage in this thing, you're more than welcome to. If not, that's fine. And some people didn't. A lot of people didn't. They were just, like, oh, that's cool. I like HOTS. I want to play. Cool, man. All right. Me too. See ya.
Oh, I mean, I think that was our last conversation, so y'all know how that went down now. Okay, so next question. This is from Wits End. Is it easy to be happy and work as a team when winning? How do you build the culture to weather when you're down as a team? So essentially, just to reword this real fast, like, how do you, when everyone's feeling down, what do you do, or what's the rule of thumb to bring everyone's morale back up and like get back into this game, get back into this fight, and try to get this dub?
Yeah. So for me, it comes back to like, what's the vision? What's the goal here? What is our objective here? I do help out with, some teams here and there, amateur teams, and I kind of see low key. I'm in the background taking notes on, what things I see. Is this? Are you playing to win? Obviously, everyone likes winning, but if like the objective is we're going to win this whole thing, and you're not doing that, okay, it feels bad. Mm-hmm. If the objective is I want to learn, I want to improve, well, then you have to understand that losing is part of that process. Even in winning, losing is part of that process. You have to maintain the vision. You have to stay focused on the goal, and you have to remind yourself and each other about that goal. Winning is fun. Winning feels good. People say, "Oh, the game is fun because you're winning." I would argue that the game is fun because there's so many interesting things that happen within the game. You got to break it down like that. What's the vision? Stay focused on the vision. And at the end of the day, one instance, one moment in time, getting picked top lane or losing a match, that's temporary. I've got bigger, better things ahead of me. And just let it go. Let that go. If you're down, and this is what I liked about Funds. He got farmed. He died like 9 times as Sonya that game. And hey, okay, that the team that he was going up against, the comp that it was hard. They gave the team drafted him Sonya, and he was like, I don't think Sonya's good here, but I'm going to go with it anyway, so that's what my team wants. And he stayed in it. Like, I still want to win. I want to be in CCL. I want to give a good, a good representation of myself, the team environment, et cetera, et cetera. That was his focus. That was his goal. And he internalized that, and we saw that. And we took the shot, and it paid off.
Yeah, it was a good shot. And then this is a follow-up on that question from Rock Your World. How do you continue to work with your team if you have players that have different goals and ambitions for HOTS? Some examples: unbalanced dynamics and commitment, having some players that avidly want to review games, replays, and mock drafts, but then having players that want to just show up and play. How do you go about dealing with that?
Yeah. This is very important at the very beginning when you're creating a team. Like, you make your Reddit posts, you make your Discord posts and NGS looking for players, da da da. Be very clear with what you are looking for. If you're the one setting this up, if you're an organization, what are you looking for in players? What are your goals for the organization, for the team, et cetera, et cetera? And you're gonna get people with all kinds. Like I said, you're gonna get people with all kinds of different, or like he said, you're gonna get people with all kinds of commitment, like disparities, schedule conflicts. Maybe some people, I want to go pro. Some guys like, I'm just trying to hit gold, dude. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I don't care about going pro. You have to take all that stuff in consideration before selecting your team, the people that you want to work with. Everybody could be good. Everyone could be like top tier HOTS players. You can have 5 GM number ones, right? But they all have a different vision for what they want. And like, you can't get those players together. It's not going to work out. If you're already in a situation where you're in a team and you're starting to discover these things, oh, that's my favorite time, baby. That's my favorite time. Have a real have a serious conversation. Hey, when we made this team, this is what we were looking at. This maybe it wasn't expressed. Maybe I didn't know. Maybe you didn't know. Fine. Have the conversation with everybody. Hey, where do we want to go from here? Are we doing this for fun? Are we doing this because we want to pop off and be the best? Do we want to be grinding out 5 days? Insert whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If a majority of the people are just, leaning one way or the other, okay. And you're not, maybe you're the captain of the team and everyone's like, look, we're just trying to chill, bro. Like, we only play once a week in NGS and that's it. And you're the guy that wants to go hard and, practice every day. Guess what you got to do, man? You're going to have to chill. You have to chill until next season. And then take that lesson and apply it for when you make your next team. If you have, a split, maybe, half the players don't want to do this, the other half don't. You have to make a tough decision. Where do I want to go? At the end of the day, is it that I want to do? Do I have to leave and find somebody else, find another team, or do I have to make some changes on the team? That's part of, being on a successful team. Sometimes you have to identify those weak moments, those weaknesses, and either encourage and build them up, try to get them to that point. But some people, they're only going to put in as much effort as they want to put in. Try to build them up, and if they don't, doesn't work out, then you got to let them go. And that's just a reality of it. Not everyone's going to be happy, sunshine, rainbows. And I mean, and that's okay. And that's okay. That's all part of learning. That's all part of, this experience, that we call life. But yeah, and then in the future, when you make another team, these are the this is what I'm looking for. Or maybe somebody else makes a post and you don't know what you're looking for, and you see somebody else is making a post like, hey, I'm looking for casual tryhards, blah blah blah. You're like, oh man, that speaks to me. I'm gonna hop in there and have a good time. It's just important. It's important that if you do have a situation where it's not ideal and you can't come to a solid conclusion or a solid decision until like after the season or whatever the case may be, it's important to not get discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Have that experience, understand it, move on. With no tomorrow, I was with them the entire losing season. Trash, doo-doo tier. It was bad. It was bad. I don't even know why I stayed. I really don't, but I'm glad that I did because I remember that and I'm like, never again. I'm never going to be in that situation again. I will never create a situation like that ever again. I didn't make that team, by the way. I'm just saying I will never create that situation in the future if it happens. But yeah, you take the bad, you apply it to the good. That's it.
Make it better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next question from Stoic. When is Goon going to become a traveling prophet and lead shirtless spiritual growth pilgrimages across the Great Plains?
My dream is to be able to do that as a career, as a job one day, for sure. When, I don't know, but I would definitely love to travel around and meet people and play games and go out into the woods, take our dogs around and do stuff. That's something that I would definitely enjoy.
Isn't there something in August that
yeah,
might speak to this?
Yeah. So I'm planning if things go well, if like the world hasn't locked down into oblivion by then. Late summer, early fall, I do plan on doing a little road trip around the country, meeting fans and just new people, etc. With a crew. We want to record the journey. We want to get footage of it, like the different landscapes and all that stuff, and also like get to meet and talk to people and hang out and there's so much when it comes to like esports. I'm going to say esports because this is like the space that we're in. There's a lot of disconnect between the people in an organization and everybody else that likes the organization or the teams or whatever. I don't ever want to create. I want to ensure that I don't create some barrier around what Wildheart is. Like this is for everybody. I have an opportunity to chase a dream. I would be irresponsible if I didn't encourage other people to do the same with their lives or provide an opportunity for people to, get their feet wet. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes, it sucks. It doesn't feel good. Maybe we brought the wrong person, or maybe that person made a decision that didn't work out, but that's okay. That's okay. That's part of the experience, part of learning. I'm learning this stuff too. So yeah. It's all about helping each other grow and enjoy life together and do what we like to do what we love. Let's play video games.
Awesome. So I have a really, really good question from Kryn. Kryn asked, what does earning respect look like for you at the highest level of play?
Earning respect at the highest. Mm-hmm. What does that look like at the highest level of play? When somebody earns, or like
like when you're dealing with these top dogs and these players, I was in HGC, I'm this, I'm that. At what point where you're talking to someone do they earn your respect and you're like, okay, I like this person, they're human, they're really cool? Where is that point, and how does someone get that from you?
Yeah. If you haven't had a chance, I'm gonna plug myself here real quick. If you haven't had a chance to go and watch the Goon Fire that I had with Jules Scott, the commissioner of CCL, last weekend, I would encourage you to go to do so. The VOD is on my Twitch channel. We spent 3 hours talking about everything, anything, and absolutely nothing. We talked about some hots and stuff, and that entire time it was just. It didn't titles didn't matter. None of that stuff mattered. Or like I mentioned before, accolades. It was just an organic human interaction. We revealed ourselves to each other and to chat and the audience. It was cool. And it wasn't from a place of like, I'm better than you because I do this thing. I think when I respect somebody, when I find like I respect the hell out of that person, it's because they've removed all of those surface level things and got down to the core of who they are and how their experiences, their good and the bad, the ugly, kind of help shape who they are today and how it's going to make them better, but also other people better around them. Whether that's planned or not. Yeah, a lot of the time I'm just like, look, I'm just gonna tell you what I think. This is what I think. You're still gonna do your thing. That's fine, but I hope that my bad experiences can encourage you to avoid those those decisions that I made or something like that. I think just being vulnerable at the end of the day is probably the biggest way to earn my respect, I guess. And there's a lot of top dogs, there's a lot of top players up there, skill wise or whatever. Like they carry their ranking around. And guess what? You can go back and watch some of these games that were played today. There's some GMs in there and stuff like that, and they got absolutely bodied, destroyed. I don't care if you're a GM, 69. I don't care. You're like, this is your first time in a team environment. This is your first time. You got a lot to learn. Now, if they're like, oh, I got a lot to learn. Maybe I don't know. Let me reach out. Let me ask. Hey, respect, man. Respect. But if you're still like, no, my team is just bad. It was lag or whatever. If you're still making those excuses, it's like, all right, cool. See ya. Yeah. I mean, whatever. I was still respect you as a human. I'm not going to treat you any different, but I'm not going to look at anything more than that. Yeah. But I don't know if that made sense. I get Kanye brain and I kind of just go everywhere. So
that it made absolute sense to me. So I'm sure the chat will be able to comprehend. Next one is also from Kryn. Should team captains be looking to assign people their own roles to be leaders in? Or is that something that will happen more naturally?
I think it depends on the environment, what the goal is for that team environment and how you want to develop leaders. I am someone that like I will see people that show some leadership qualities that I like. You know, they're usually pretty humble, or they'll take charge in something, or take a little bit of pride in something, and then kind of want to pass that, they pass that along to other people. Maybe I would assign some things to some people if I'm developing, for example, like a fresh offlaner. I'm like, hey, I need you to go through. I need you to scout other offlane. I need you to be scouting. I need you to be, doing VOD review. I want you to teach, your team on what it is to teach your team on like wave priority and how that helps you to help them, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, if they're pretty fresh, I'll do that. If they're if they need a direction, sure. Sometimes you kind of just like people will naturally kind of like take over some things. I'll give you an example. So I have an academy team, Wildheart Omega. Great group of guys. They're fantastic. They're hilarious. They're funny. They got their own vibe. It's cool. At the beginning, Lupus was like, trying to schedule stuff. And then, I was helping out, and everyone was just kind of going through scheduling stuff and trying to keep track of it. Was a mess. And Frosty, one of the players, was like, this is a nightmare. You guys suck at this. I'm going to do this. Okay. Boom. And he did it. And he does a fantastic job. It's great. It looks very clean and nice. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. All right. Nice. Good one, bro. Like that's fantastic. Sometimes, other people are trying to do things and somebody notices that there's a need for something else, or it needs to be done differently, or whatever. Everybody loved it. They're like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about this anymore. Frosty, great guy. Thank you so much. It looks nice. Thank you. But yeah, sometimes the need arises and people naturally just will hop in there. If you see as a captain that something is missing and you think there's something, one of your players exhibits a certain quality that you like, create the opportunity. You can create the opportunity and kind of like put them in there without them knowing that they got put in there. It does sound a little like manipulative, but it's not. I guess it is, but it's not in a bad way, not in a bad way. Yeah, or like even with you with this, like the stream team stuff, like we're kind of just chatting, like, hey, just put a thumbs up if you can make this or not. Oh yeah, cool, that makes sense. Sure. Naturally, people will fill that in. I think when that happens, that's usually probably like the best way. Sometimes you force people to do something, they'll develop some kind of skill set from it, but they won't like it. And that's okay. They discover that I really don't like this. Hey man, can I not be in charge of the schedule anymore? I don't like doing that. Or can I not do like be in charge of like the sky? I would rather do. Can I try this instead? And I think being the captain and leader, being able to like, be willing to be like, okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'd put you in a rough spot or whatever. I think that's also healthy. But I don't know.
Awesome. So this is going to be our last question here. So this is from Brainer. How do you personally recognize limitations and strengths and weaknesses in yourself and others? And how do you use that knowledge? That's a big question to be the last question.
Yeah. How do you personally recognize limitations and strengths and weaknesses in yourself and others? Trial and error. Over time, you kind of just start. The more you do things, the more things you do, the more things you succeed at, the more things you fail at, the more information you gather about yourself, about humans in general, the way things work, etc. And then you kind of just have this information library of experience. They can't teach you this in school a lot of times. I don't know. For me, it's just been school of hard knocks, just life, and a lot of time thinking about and reflecting on the mistakes that you made, and maybe the mistakes of others, and not. People are so quick to just see somebody make a mistake and be like, "Oh, cast aside, shunned from society," and it's just like, "Hang on, I mean, you guys are doing that, but I kind of want to see what happened here. Like, why did that happen? Why did this happen? Why did they think this way?" And then you start digging, you start asking questions, you start establishing those relationships where they're comfortable enough with you to ask those, to answer those questions, and you're like, oh, well, they thought this because this happened to them years ago, or like because of this experience that they had. And you gotta, I don't know, you just have to like be willing to take all the experiences, good and bad, reflect on it, and be open-minded about it, and see why things are the way they are and how they can be avoided. But over time, you'll start to see the same patterns in humans. You'll see the same patterns again. Someone that is maybe what's the word I'm looking for here? They lack confidence. They're not confident in themselves or whatever. They kind of like they'll. It starts off as a self-deprecating joke, but you start to realize that joke is actually what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then because somebody else in Storm League told them, something or whatever, and being able to kind of like over time you start to notice those things, and then you can help them out in that regard, like help them get over it, or put them in a position that you feel they're good at. I look at Slug, a social media guy. For the longest time, for Wildheart, I was doing all the Twitter stuff. I was doing whatever, I had some help, and it was cool. And then Slug just kind of came in one day. He was somebody that ran the social media account for Octalysis back in HGC. He knew Justin, he knew Buds, he knew Zergling, he knew these guys. He knows Unaverted and Funds even, and just knowing that, just me knowing that and remembering that and that experience that he had, he was kind of just hanging out, and I was like, hey, you want to run the social media account, do these memes and stuff? And he was like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. And then he told me, hey, I was going through a time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I didn't have anything going on, nothing was making me happy. And just because you remember that I did that one time or whatever, you were able to reach out and give me that position, and like, it's cool. I'm happy. You may not see it right away, but you will see it if you're, if you go back and you think about it. And yeah, and even in yourself, like for me, oh man, I'm not gonna get into that.
Running a little close on time, but hey, if you want to finish up, if you want to wrap up real fast, feel free.
Yeah, no, just go out and do stuff, do things. Don't, gather the experience for yourself, and share those experiences with other people. I encourage everyone to talk to somebody, to form new relationships, and you're going to discover things about yourself and other people that you like and don't like, and that allows you to make more informed decisions about dealing with people. Leadership is dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like, it's not assets. It's not, this box move here. And then like, humans are so dynamic, and being able to just just understanding that we're complex. And that's beautiful. That's wonderful. I think that's amazing. That's fantastic. And just developing those experiences, those relationships, and you're going to find out, you're going to one day, You're going to find that partner. You're going to find that team. You're going to find that job. You're going to realize that maybe it's not the dog. Maybe it's you. But I don't know. Whatever. I'll just recap my 3 points. The 3 team things. I don't know what I'm going to call them or whatever. But the 3 things I look for when I'm creating a team or creating a culture, a dynamic in a team. The 3 most important things is having a vision, a goal. Everyone should feel empowered. Everyone is empowered. Everyone is a leader in their own right. Everyone's voice counts. Unless you're just that guy that's always crying, then get out of here. I'm just kidding. Not really. And encourage relationships with one another. That's I think that's pretty much it. But yeah.
Yeah, so this was a really, really awesome conversation. Really, really awesome episode 1 for CCS Masterclass. Before we close things out, feel free to give us your shout outs. Let us know where we can find you, where people can watch your stream. Go ahead and give us that.
Sure. Yeah. Shout out to Wildheart, everyone on Wildheart, everyone involved, the staff, all the people behind the scenes that you guys will never probably ever hear of. I got a nice little group of board of directors. It's just like 3 of us that just BS. Everyone on the team and staff, all of you that support Wildheart, it's amazing. I never ever imagined being in this position. Yeah, it's wild. You guys can follow me. Oh, shout out to CCL for letting me scam them and giving me a spot in CCL. Thank you. You guys can catch I stream. I'll be streaming tonight. Later on tonight, we'll be doing Hots After Dark. We get the community together and play some games, ARAMs or whatever. We do have some other things lined up. So a couple of extra little surprises. We all show and play Hots together. Sometimes the players will show up, et cetera, et cetera. But you can find me at twitch.tv/Goon, GGWP, Twitter, Goon, GGWP. You can follow me there. Savahe, thank you for hanging out with me here. And I guess
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it was a ton of fun. All right, so we are going to be closing out this episode. We're going to go into a 5-minute intermission, and be sure stay tuned because Unaverted is going to be hopping in for episode 2.
Yeah.
Goon, everyone here wishes you the best of luck for Heroes Heart CCL Season 2, and we hope to see Wildheart there and to dominate once again.
Yeah. Hey, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully Simplicity can take it easy. Come on.
All right, we'll see you guys next